It had all started as a weekend trip to Las Vegas. A 3-day weekend was coming up. Some friends wanted to add spice to their lives, and Vegas happened to be on the bucket list. Not mine, theirs. I wanted to stay home, watch old cartoons. I'd bought a bunch of them from a video store. I wanted to just maybe sleep in that Friday. Maybe I didn't make it clear to them. Or maybe they just ignored me. But they'd already bought me a plane ticket and booked me a hotel room. With it being too late to refund everything, out of financial obligation, I couldn't let that money go to waste. That would make me a bad and potentially boring friend. We landed and reached the hotel before noon. I had 5 friends with me, and everyone was feeling the excitement. Especially one, Sadie. Sadie was the group extrovert, the leader. She didn't suggest Vegas, but she sure as hell put herself in charge the moment the others considered the trip. Standing in front of us in the hotel lobby, she held a list of places for us to check out. I just stood by, let her list them all off. Everyone casted their votes on which places to skip, which places to start with, and which ones to save for last. What we ended up with was a schedule starting with the most fun and physically demanding stuff, gradually leading towards the more exciting, unsavory stuff. I had already mentally decided to call it when evening rolled around to avoid the clubs. I guess I am a boring friend. I will say this about Vegas. A lot of places are surprisingly clean. Don't get me wrong, we did see plenty of streets that looked like the physical manifestation of a painful hangover, but many were straight out of Hollywood. It's colorful, it's loud, it's a theme park that people live in. It was almost surreal when we ended up on streets that looked plain and ordinary. Men in suits, kids leaving school, that kind of thing. I guess I knew very little about Las Vegas. Of course, a lot of it is normal, but still, I found it interesting. When we turned down a street where the buildings looked like modern art, I knew I would be in for a hell of a time. Day drinking, slot machines, live shows, you name it. I can admire the work and the effort that they put into all of it, but it just wasn't for me. When we had dinner at what I thought was a nice casino restaurant, until I saw the male servers were in very tight, revealing outfits, I had just about mentally checked out. "Hey, I think I'm done," I said, before the chorus of ahs could get any louder. "I'm tired. The flight gave me a headache." "I have a pill for that in my bag," one of my friends said. "Don't worry about it. I think rest is better right now. You guys have fun though. Try not to stay out too late." I was feeling older with every word and every excuse that was coming out of my mouth. I'm 28, and I was talking like I was 48. That being said, the amount of free relief I felt walking into that empty hotel room was criminal. I must have felt tired to some degree, because the bed I fell onto had my eyes drooping immediately. It was the cool, soft, Egyptian cotton seats that had me feeling that sleep was the finest pleasure on earth. I know that says a lot about me, but still, it was really nice. I turned the TV on, and I flicked through channels, finally ending up on a new episode of How It's Made. Well, maybe it was an old episode. I don't know. What I can say for sure is that my brain was locked in, and as the sun fell beyond the horizon, I was gone. I woke up to a call. My phone was buzzing beside my head, the vibrations doing more to wake me up than the light-hearted jingle I had for a ringtone. I picked up. "Yeah?" I groaned. "What's up? It's 5 in the morning. Where are you guys?" "Hey, you're really missing out here." Sadie's voice was garbled by music. "We're up the road, towards the red place. We're in the club with the big green monster truck out front. You can't miss it. Come on." She hung up before I could say anything. "You underestimated me," I muttered. I turned over in bed and looked out the window. The city was alive. Even after a full night, everything was still going. Lights and sounds, the distant thumps of music. There had to be some stellar muting in the walls, because I could see that the party was not far away. I thought about going. It was the idea of missing out that bothered me a little, because I didn't think I was missing out. Yet, when so many people you call friends say that you are, you do start to wonder if you really know how to live. Maybe the happiness you feel from simple things is not as potent as the happiness you get while being drunk at a club with your friends. "Screw that," I said. I knew that was a dumb way of thinking, but I also didn't feel that tired anymore. The least I could do was enjoy the trip my own way, and at that moment, I just wanted to go for a walk. Not in the streets, of course, but I did remember Sadie mentioning on her list of activities some kind of walk thing just outside the city. I was the only one who was interested at the time, and she didn't seem too enthusiastic when she told us about it. I got out of bed and I texted her, asking for the address, to which she sent me the Google business thing. No official page or anything, just a bare bones minimum. It lacked that Vegas flair. That was a plus for me, I think. Just after midday, I arrived at that place. I paid the taxi guy and jumped out into the heat. I always had decent clothing for the outdoors with me. It was like my entire wardrobe. Yet, this heat was still a surprise. I guess being in a cool car for half an hour would make it feel like stepping into an oven. The trail started with a small collection of shacks, with one larger building that looked like it was in good condition. It was painted an ugly yellow, with small, cartoonish paints all around it, like a cactus character, a tumbleweed, with some classics like the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote thrown in for good measure. I don't think they were going for a cowboy theme, but that's what I felt when I saw the owner. A tall woman, wearing chaps, a 10-gallon hat and a checkered shirt. She looked like she had seen some things. Just shocking the way the skin beneath her eyes seemed to bubble. Yet, when she saw me, she gave me the warmest smile. She greeted me, marching over with her hand outstretched. I held mine out too. She shook it and shook my arm like a wet noodle. "Am I not too late?" "Not at all," she said. "Some eccentric fellas are already set up for the first group today. There's still time to join them before they go." A group? Yeah, I find it's better to send people out in groups. Less chance of people getting lost or bunching up on the trail. Better for pictures too, you see? Right. We also have a route for horses if you're interested in... No horses. They scare me. I'll stick with the group. Fair enough. I won't press you. I always hated it when people said that. Nothing made me feel more pressed than someone telling me they won't press me. Still, she was nice. Sweeter than honey and iced tea. I didn't say anything more, and I followed her to the start of the trail. There was clear signage there, with numbers near the fences and gates, indicating the different trails. The trail she pointed me to didn't have a sign or a number. The first group should be waiting there. She pointed down the trail, towards a large rock. They're set to leave in 5 minutes. Do you have everything you need? Water, hat, sunscreen, I said. Good. It's hot now, but it'll get cool later. A little known fact about the desert, Dorothy said, pointing up a finger as if she expected me to take note. Of course, I already knew that. I nodded, and I started walking up the trail towards the rock. She already started her march back to the main building. I was feeling pretty good, even excited. I love the openness of the desert, and I was hoping that, being 20 minutes outside of Vegas, I would get to enjoy the natural beauty of it all. There was a group of people waiting by the rock, but looking at them was a little weird. I mean, I don't want to show my ignorance, but I think they were religious or just had some kind of cultural thing going on. Maybe I was about to walk with some foreigners from overseas, or it was some kind of LARPing group. I didn't know. There were at least 20 people there, and it was hard to tell if they were all men or not, because they were all dressed in robes, from head to toe. Not flowing robes either, but a lot more neat, constricted. My first real thought wasn't, what the hell are they wearing, but how the hell haven't they melted? All but one of their robes were red, but the last one was black. He stood tall, straight, the first one to turn in my direction. Upon seeing them, I was already psyching myself up to say something. Approaching a group of people you don't know alone was terrifying. As you could guess, Sadie and her group were the ones who adopted me at work. I was just happy they did, because I would have never gone up to them. Room for one more? I said, with a forced smile. I was a little quiet at first, but better a little too quiet than a little too loud. The ones in the red robes turned from me, and they looked at the other one in black. Please do, the man said. Have you been on this trail before? No, first time, I answered. Be sure to stick close. Conserve your energy. It is to be a long walk. The man in the black robes pointed towards the desert, the distant rocks, and the sparse foliage. It felt so surreal, but at the same time, it felt right. Like I'd stepped into the adventure I wanted. Only, something was throwing me off. It was the silence from such a large group. When we started on the path, I didn't hear anything from the people in the red robes. The only one I'd heard speak up until that moment was the one in the black robes. He would speak to me every few minutes, usually to point something out. but the gaps between those moments were growing larger. Initially, I thought he was a guide, but it became clear as he drifted into the others that he was just familiar with the trail. I was too shy to keep the conversation going, finding myself just enjoying the sights around me. The range of colors I was seeing was just incredible. So many people think the desert is just muted, dry colors, but there are just as many shades of light and dark. The vibrant oranges when we found ourselves in a ravine were stunning. We followed a small stream in that shallow ravine until the trail opened up into the desert again. It was just in time to see the sun settle below the horizon. The sky becomes like blood, the man in the black robe said. I jumped, not at his voice, but because I thought I was at the back of the pack. Now, he was right behind me. I wanted to keep everyone in view, so I made sure to stay behind. A beautiful red. Yes. I turned to look at him. He was looking right at me. I could see his eyes, his pale skin, through the slit in the robes. It was odd to look at, because his hands were dark. When I had finally registered his words as a question, I stuttered in response. Yeah, I said, feeling a chill run down my spine. I took the hoodie out of my backpack and I pulled it on. Amazing how fast the cold comes in too, huh? Yes. Do you think you can make the walk back? He asked. We should almost be there, so... No. We are quite far now, he corrected. By night, the journey back should be quicker. 5 hours seems about right. My heart sank. I thought we had taken some turns, and we were just about to see the start of the trail again. Yet, looking around, I should have been able to see that distant glow of Vegas. Instead, all I saw were dark, robed figures, shambling ever onward into the desert. My water had run out. My phone had long since died, and I was hungry. My panic was stiff at first, but I began to hear it in my voice. Then let's turn back, I said. You can go back. We are heading somewhere else, the man in black said. Is it close? Very close. But you are not able to join us. Not as you are. He looked me up and down. I wondered if he was referring to my clothes and how I stood out amongst them. But something in those eyes, it showed something else. Disgust. It was like my entire existence didn't fit in. Not just my clothes. His tone was growing more serious and far less friendly as well. At that moment, I noticed a building noise, a rumbling, which I mistook for chatter amongst the men and women in red robes. But as it grew louder, it sounded more like an uncoordinated hum. Like they were all humming a song that none of them knew the lyrics to. Again, too late, he murmured. As it should be, so it is. Too late, I repeated. Mind where you step, he told me. Once your weight is on your foot, your choice is made. The humming had reached a breaking point in the tone. The night sky became a lot darker, and the stars and moon vanished. The midnight blue became a pitch black, a surreal void. It felt like something was blocking it out of sight, because that same darkness seemed to move wherever I looked. The desert, it remained illuminated by some strange source of light. I could see the red robes against the pitch black, and I watched as they marched across the sands. I was overwhelmed by a sense of dread, a feeling of weakness. My whole body began to ache, and every effort seemed to strain my muscles and even my bones. I knew this feeling, the one bubbling inside of me. It was many years ago, when I was a child. I was coughing in my bed, constantly, day after day. That weakness kept me wondering how hollow I could get. I felt as weak and as flimsy as a thin plastic bag. My heart, I could feel its every beat, as if all of my insides were numb and only it soldiered on. I was waiting for it to give out. The people in the red robes began to shed their blood-red fabric. Naked forms that began to age and decay before my eyes. A space in the inky void ahead of them suddenly opened up. A shining white door, tall, thin. The way was clear, and I did not have it in me to walk on. I was terrified. "Why are you scared?" the man in the black robes asked. "What awaits you is an end to the pain. Keep walking strong." He placed his hand on my shoulder and guided me. The people ahead of me were growing more grotesque by the second. My head was burning inside. I felt dehydrated. While my body was in a state of shock and fear, my mind was just trying its best to grip onto reality, to steer me away. The man in the black robe seemed to sense it, because he stopped walking and he looked at me. With all my energy I had left, I looked at him too. "You cannot go back now," he told me. "Your life is with them. It is only natural to pass over to the next plane." I felt the heat of tears. It was just like those nights years ago. The very real fear of death. I am ashamed of it now, but I was not thinking of my loved ones, not even my family. I didn't think of all the wrong I did, the regrets I had. When I looked into that man's eyes, all I could think was, why now? The man seemed to sigh, but I didn't hear the exhale. His shoulders slumped, and the humming faded completely. These shambling corpses turned around to look back at me with their empty sockets. "The dead must be laid to rest," he said. "It is only natural. The earth will bind the body and free the spirit." The man in black grabbed both my shoulders, twisted me around, and began to lay me on the ground as if I weighed nothing. I could not move. I could only watch as he began to scoop the sand with his hands over me. I heard that rumbling again, but it sounded angry. I looked up, as far as I could. The corpses were moving closer, and they radiated malice. More tears, and even a pathetic whimper. "Hush now," the man in the black robe said. "They are not upon you yet." He was working fast, and only a few seconds later, I could feel sand over every inch of my body. He finished by pouring the sand over my face, covering me completely. I could hear the dead close in. I heard a muttering of words. Then I heard his screams. I tried not to imagine the pain one must feel in order to make those sounds. He was still alive, but his cries grew further away as they carried him towards that white arch. I could gather this much from what I heard. As his voice faded, the rambling ceased, and strength returned to my body. I could breathe, and I was breathing in sand. With a choking gasp, I sat up, coughing and spluttering. I noticed immediately the pink and purple hue of the sky. On my back, I felt the warmth of the morning sun. Looking all around, I saw nothing. No dead people, no man in black, no inky sky and white arch. All the evidence I had was the blood on the sand, and it trailing off before stopping completely. I eventually found a road and somebody to point me in the direction of Vegas, but they were not willing to give me a lift back. Luckily, after an hour or two of walking, someone else came along. I watched out the window as we drove past the road leading to the yellow building where the trail began. I think I even saw Dorothy talking to a group of tourists. When I arrived back at the hotel, I dug my room key out of a sandy backpack and I held it in front of the machine. It still worked, thank God, and a few seconds later, I was taking a shower, trying to let the hot water bring a little more warmth to me. All the while, I could not stop thinking about that man in the black robes. He was not a dead man, not like the others. He didn't seem evil, but he didn't seem sane either. No matter what conclusions I made about him, I realized that he saved my life, and he paid a price for it. A thought that snapped everything into place, and I cried in that shower as all of the feelings rushed at me at once. I spoke about this experience with only one person, a priest. I don't think he really believed a word I said. Not truly. I think he thought I was talking about a dream, or more accurately, a nightmare. Yet, he showed enough concern to say something wise and biblical about sacrifice. It wasn't his words that convinced me to refine my faith. It was the thought of believing in nothing when something like that happened to me. It didn't sit right. That's what I gained for the price that someone else paid. I only pray that it is enough